A grandson took a 20 cm bread knife into a care home to murder his grandmother, a court heard today. Antony Jennings, 33, is accused of slitting her throat and then telling a nurse, "I'm sorry. I just killed my nan." Dementia-sufferer Ruby Wilson, 94, was found unresponsive and bleeding in her chair after receiving several cuts to her neck on November 29 last year. A jury at Chelmsford Crown Court heard today that Jennings launched the gruesome attack after going to visit his elderly relative. Prosecutor Stephen Rose said, she, a nurse, saw Mr. Jennings and Mrs. Wilson meeting and drinking tea together at the lounge table. Mrs. Wilson appeared to be very pleased to see her grandson. Jurors then heard that Jennings asked to see room 3, where his nan was staying. The relatives went to the room, and the court heard that 10 minutes later, a psychiatric nurse felt a tap on her arm. Mr. Rose said, "It was Mr. Jennings. He said, 'I'm sorry. I just killed my nan,' to which, the nurse, reacted, 'You're joking.' He replied, 'I'm not joking.' The nurse allegedly went to Mrs. Wilson's room, and found the resident bleeding from the neck area. Jennings allegedly said later, 'I don't want her to suffer anymore and she's not in pain anymore.' Mr. Rose said, 'Obviously her throat had been cut. Significant amounts of blood were on her clothing and on the floor.' The court heard that Jennings later told police, 'I just wanted to get that done for ages, to be honest with you, mate.' Jennings was also reported to have said, 'I just can't take it anymore. She doesn't know who anyone is, she's in agony. I killed her, I just cut her throat.' The court heard that Jennings was later examined by 3 consultant psychiatrists, who all agreed on a diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia, including features of psychosis, moments of paranoia and delusions. Dorian Lovell-Pank, representing Jennings, said, "Sometime before this happened, he had been seriously mentally ill. His family was aware of that. He was ill and they were deeply concerned, so that by November 29, when this terrible event took place, this man was very deeply disturbed and sick. That of course is not an excuse for what he did, as you have heard. But it is an explanation for what he did." Emergency services arrived at Forest Place Nursing Home in Buckhurst Hill, Essex, at around 1:20 p.m. on the day of the alleged murder. Mrs. Wilson, who loved crocheting, dressmaking and bingo, was confirmed dead at 5:45 p.m. that day. A post-mortem on November 30 gave the provisional cause of death as a wound to the neck. The court heard Jennings was found with a 20 cm long and 3 cm wide orange bread knife in a JanSport backpack, which was seized by officers. The knife was found to have blood on the handle. Another 8 cm smooth-bladed knife was found in the bag, but no signs of blood or other materials traceable to Mrs. Wilson were found on it. Mrs. Wilson was found to have sustained a number of separate cuts, and the wound to her neck had divided the carotid artery and jugular vein. Forest Place Nursing Home, which looks after people with dementia among other conditions, is reported to have roughly 100 residents in its care. The court heard that Mrs. Wilson, who suffered from dementia, moved to the facility in May 2017. Jurors heard she was visited by her daughter Hazel once a week. Mr. Rose said, "On the face of it, you may think she was comfortable, cared for and loved." Jennings, from Ilford, London, pleaded not guilty to murdering Ms. Wilson but entered an alternative plea of guilty to manslaughter. The trial, which is presided over by Judge Patricia Lynch QC and is expected to last up to 3 weeks, continues.